Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to another tag video. I've just recently looked at the list of tags I still have to do, and I think it's less than 20 now. So yeah, me. And today I decided to do the dilemmas of a book nerd tag, which was originally created by Lindsay over at Lindsay's Little Library, and I was tagged by, I don't remember because it was a gazillion years ago. Sorry about that. Anyway, there are 10 prompts in this tag, and they all around how you read, how you organize your books. So it's a really lovely tag. Anyway, prompt number 1 is, and again, I'm going to look to the side because I have the prompts here. Prompt number 1 is storage. How do you store and organize your books? I've made a whole video last month about how I organize my bookshelves. I will leave a link to this video down below if you want to have, a more extensive, babbling answer about it. But in short, I have organized my books. I keep fiction and non-fiction separate. What you see behind me, where I always film, this is the room where I keep the non-fiction, and that's organized in topics. And the fiction, the bookshelves are in another room. I keep them organized by author's alphabet, but I separate the German fiction and the fiction in English, whether it's translated into English or whether it's originally written in English. That's in short how I organize my books, and I have a small little bookcase where I keep the unread books, and I try to keep those books on those shelves around 100. That's the short answer, but again, if you're interested in, more of a extensive bookshelf tourish kind of thing about my organization, check out my video about my bookshelves. Number 2, how do you keep track of what books you read and what books you own? I only keep track on the books I read, so I don't keep track in any shape or form on the books I own. And with the books I read, I use Goodreads a lot. I have shelves, for each year, so I keep track of the books that I read each year. But I also, I'm a very analog person still, so I also have a little booklet in which I just, write down here, author, and then the title, and just keep all the books that I read one after the other. I don't know why I do that, but I like it. I like my little booklet. Anyway, so that's the way I keep track of the books I read. Number 3, borrow. Do you lend your books out? I have to say hardly ever, because you don't get them back, and you have to keep track of whether you lend books out. So there are a couple of people, 2 or 3 people that I'm really good friends with that I occasionally lend books out to, but not, on a regular basis to a lot of people. I just don't like it. I want to keep my books. I'm weird that way, I know. Number 4, buying. How do you buy or acquire your books? When I read that question first, I was not sure what they meant, what Lindsay meant, but I think, ebooks. So about half of what I read is ebooks, and I buy that, through Amazon. The other half is physical books, and most of them I buy in bookstores. I try to go to not big chain bookstores, but independent bookstores. When I'm in Cologne, I'm very fortunate that there are 4 independent bookstores just, within 10 minutes of where I live. But I think I talked about that before. German bookstores don't usually carry a lot of English language books. So those books I mainly buy when I'm in Holland. There are wonderful bookstores in Amsterdam. Also for used books, there's a fantastic bookstore called the Book Exchange, which has millions of used books, and I also buy used books online. We have in Germany sort of something like the book depository, and I also order books on Amazon. So that's basically the ways that I buy books. Um, Number 5, how do you respond to questions like, how do you read so much? And other similar comments. Um, I don't know. I don't get these comments that often, probably because the people I'm friends with know that I read a lot and they sort of got used to the idea. But if somebody would ask me the question, I would probably say that I don't watch TV hardly ever. I mean, I do watch Netflix occasionally. I can also binge watch on TV, on series on Netflix. I have to admit that. But most of my time, I'm not a very social person in the sense I don't go out every night. I mean, if I go out to dinner with friends or anything once a week, that's probably it. So I spend a lot of evenings at home. I live by myself, and if you don't watch TV and if you love reading, that's what you do in the evening. So it's not that difficult for me to read, on average between 2 and 3 hours every day. But I think that cutting down on senseless TV watching or zapping through channels for hours, that's a good way to acquire more reading time. Let's see here. Number 6, next book. How do you choose your next book? That depends a little. I mean, sometimes a book is chosen for me in a sense because I have a buddy read lined up. Like today, for instance, when I film this, it's Sunday. So today I will start a buddy read with Sean. So I know that this will be my next book because I have the buddy read scheduled for a certain date. Um, if you're following my channel, you know that I hardly ever do TBRs except for buddy reads. I have most of the month I have 4 or 5 buddy reads each month, and I know the dates on which they start, and we have a schedule. So that is my only TBR are my buddy reads. For the rest, the books that I choose myself, it's quite at random. I mean, sometimes I have themes that I want to read more about, and then I have a couple of books put aside for a certain theme, whether it's an historical fiction, like, I want to read more about South Africa, then I have South African authors that I already have. I also, every month I look at new releases, so there are always books on sort of TBR, so books that I want to read, that I look at each month and then I pick some. But it's not, if you ask me at the beginning of each month, can you tell me which books you will read? I will probably only come up with the buddy reads and maybe 1 or 2 books that I'm absolutely certain that I want to read this month for a certain reason. If it's a new release that I'm really excited about, like when Janet Winterson's new novel Frankenstein came out earlier this summer, I knew that I will read it right after publication. But for the rest, it's really, quite what kind of book am I interested in? I look at the unread books on my shelves, or I look at my Goodreads shelves where there are to read books, and the NetGalley. I use NetGalley a lot, and also Script, and then I just pick the book that I feel like reading at the moment. I think that's what you call a mood reader or something. Sorry. Number 7, travel. How do you pick which book to bring on vacation with you? I only bring physical books when I travel or when I go on vacation that I already started reading, because I want to finish them then. And for the rest, I mainly read ebooks on vacation, because I know, first of all, wherever I go, I will probably buy books. I will, first day, wherever I am, I will look where's the closest bookstore, and I will probably buy something. But also, um, because of the way that I choose books, the question that I just answered, I cannot plan like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ahead. I will probably take all the wrong books and they will just fill up my suitcase. So the Kindle is a really good option, because I always have a lot of books saved on the Kindle, or Script or NetGalley, and that gives me a lot of choices. And of course, you can buy ebooks through Amazon wherever you are. So I don't take many books with me when I travel. At least not in physical form. Number 8, annotate. Do you write in or mark up your books in any way? Yes, non-fiction more than fiction. When I read ebooks, then I mark it, and you can type little notes, which I think is really handy. I do that a lot. I also mark, when I read ebooks, I always mark names and dates, because I'm really bad with names of protagonists. I tend to forget them. Even if I really enjoy a book, a year later, I might not remember who the main protagonist was called, or the main protagonists in, for instance, Persuasion. So when I read books as ebooks, I always mark names and dates and the village, for instance, it's set in. I don't annotate books. I mean, don't write in books a lot when I'm read books in physical form. I might underline or write notes in nonfiction, but my fiction, I don't annotate that much. But to keep up with the names, what I do in physical books like this is, for instance, Persuasion. And what I do, I have these little cards, and I always write, the publication date, and then when and where it's set, and then I write the names of the main protagonists. So when I look at Persuasion on the bookshelf and I can't remember who all the people are, then I only have to look at the card. So that sort of helps me to at least remember the name of the main protagonists. Number 9, new or backlist, or which do you prefer? Both. If you're following my channel, you know that I'm really interested in new releases. I make a video of new releases that I personally find interesting each month. And I read quite some new releases, but I also read a lot of backlisted books. So I would say it's probably a third of the books that I read are new releases, and 2/3 are backlist. That can vary a bit depending on the month, but that's on average, I would say. And I love both equally. Number 10, sequels. Do you read books as they are released, or do you wait for an entire series until the entire series is released? Well, you know me, really bad with series, really bad with sequels. I don't wait for a whole series to come out. I just start, whether a series that just comes out, for instance, N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth series. When the first book came out, I read that book, and it's one of the very few series that I actually finished. So when the next book came out, I read that. But I'm not a big. I'm intimidated if it's a series of more than 2 or 3 books, like Robin Hobb. That 18 sort of book series that intimidates me, and I don't read a lot of series. It's just not. Yeah, even sometimes I start with the series when I'm interested in a book. Certainly, if it's sci-fi, then I would read the first book, and I'm really excited about it, and I love it, and I'm have all the intentions to read on and read the next, and then I don't. So yeah. Sorry. Oh, those were all the questions already. Yeah. people to tag. I mean, this tag has made the rounds on BookTube, so I'm sure most of you have done it, booktubers. But there are a couple of new or new to me booktubers that I want to tag, and that's Sharon from Sharon Go Forth, Lori from Windsong Reads, Veronica from V's Reads and Rambles, and Sarah from Hardcover Hearts. So I hope you will do the tag, and for you, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, talk to me down in the comments. I'm looking forward to that, and I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye bye.